2,800 graduate students who, in the course of several ceremonies yesterday, today, and tomorrow, will be receiving their diplomas. And this ceremony is, as we mentioned, the capstone event, a key event which features our guest speakers and the processional of students. And we welcome back the 50th reunion class, the class of 1976, who graduated during the American Bicentennial celebrations and are now back during our nation's 250th celebration.
For most of MIT's history, there was just one day of commencement where everybody received their diplomas, all the speeches occurred, and with the increasing population at MIT of students, undergraduate and graduate, it just became a little bit unwieldy. It became very long. There wasn't enough room in Killian Court for all the guests. And so about 10 years or so ago, as Debbie mentioned, we divided the program so that the undergraduates and the graduates would be receiving their diplomas on different days in different ceremonies. And this particular day is reserved for the One MIT program. Let's run down a little bit what you're going to be seeing over the next hour and a half or so. There will be a procession into the courtyard, and the alumni parade will kick it off. The class of 1976, celebrating their 50th reunion. And during that processional, we'll be hearing the Killian Court Brass Ensemble, conducted by Kenneth Amos. Opening remarks, Mark Gorenberg, the class of 76, celebrating his 50th. The chair of the MIT Corporation.
The invocation will be given by Thea Keith Lucas, the chaplain of the Institute. The Corollaries, one of MIT's many wonderful a cappella groups, will sing the national anthem. Then we will hear the commencement address by Lisa T. Sue, class of 1990, and also earned graduate degrees of Master's in Science in 1991 and PhD in 1994. And we'll give you a little bit more of her bio, but she's a remarkably accomplished MIT alumna, the chair and chief executive officer of Advanced Micro Devices, one of the world's leading semiconductor manufacturers.
Following that, we will have a salute from the graduate students by the president of the Graduate Student Council, and then a salute from the undergraduate students, the president of the class of 2026. And then the big moment everybody's been waiting for, the charge to the graduates, president of MIT, Sally Kornbluth.
This is, in fact, the day when the students officially received their degrees. This morning, MIT's governing body, the corporation, met and voted to confer the degrees to all of the students. And we are delighted, therefore, to now turn these students into alumni. And to launch that, the president of the MIT Alumni Association, Stephen DeFalco, will invite the students to turn their class rings, the famous brass rat, a gold-colored ring, or gold ring, which features the MIT mascot, the beaver, along with symbols of the dome and class years. Mark Gorenberg, the chair, will offer some closing remarks, and then there will be a recessional, which is kicked off by the Corollaries, again singing the MIT school song.
If you're watching along on the video, you're seeing that many of the students are already in the courtyard. They do get to process in with their schools if they're graduate students. Much of that activity occurred yesterday. Some of the Sloan School of Management commencement exercises are occurring today. Tomorrow is when the undergraduates, the class of 2026, processes into Killian Court, and it is an amazing moment to watch them, see the smiles on their faces. One thing that MIT does that is unique is during the undergraduate ceremony, we read the names of the undergraduates live. Every single one of them is read by one of 6 readers. I am one of them. And to see the smiles on their faces as they cross right in front of you is absolutely fantastic.
And then they will receive their actual diploma. Many students in other institutions will, in fact, receive their diploma at a later date, either by mail or picking it up from the registrar's office. But this has been a point of pride for many, many years that the students here at MIT would receive their actual diploma. Today, as the students sometimes will receive some sort of certificate to mark it, but you're seeing the class here before you with colorful stoles that represent different organizations and cords. They could be fraternities and sororities, they could be social groups or groups that represent particular athletic achievements. You're kind of seeing in the mix here the backside of newly minted PhDs and doctors of science wearing the MIT robe, which is gray with cardinal striping.
One of the interesting things about MIT's ceremonies now is we do things outdoors 3 days in a row. And if you know anything about the weather of the greater Boston area, to get 3 really nice days in a row at this time of year is very, very difficult. As one who has a degree in meteorology from MIT, I can say that it can be a challenge sometime to monitor and forecast the weather. And in fact, we're doing that right now. Yesterday it was very warm, very humid. And as you can see on the image now, the sun is out, but the radar is showing that eastern and southern New England are dotted by showers across much of the area. The coverage is about 20% right now. That means 80% of the land area is not getting anything, and there's nothing in the way of our campus at the moment. But we're going to be outside in the courtyard for about another 2 hours or so, and it wouldn't surprise me if we do see a quick rain shower there. So we're prepared. We have some ponchos for the guests in the courtyard, and those who are up on the stage are covered by what's called a sail. It's a very large piece of canvas which stretches across the entire stage, which will protect the faculty and the speakers.
So I thought I'd give you a little bit of MIT history. The Institute was chartered and founded in 1861 on April 10th, just 2 days before the start of the American Civil War. The Civil War, in fact, postponed the beginning of classes, which did not start until 1865. That means that the very first class, graduating class at MIT, some 13 students, did not graduate until 1868. There was no ceremony at the time, just the students would receive a diploma, and in that case, they were so behind the orchestration of the event. In fact, it was just a few days before the ceremony that MIT received authorization from the Massachusetts State Legislature to receive, to grant degrees. So it took a year for those first 13 to receive their degrees. We have one of those diplomas, that of Robert Richards, in our museum collection. The first ceremony, though, that used academic regalia did not occur until 1923. That commencement was held at the Symphony Hall, and it was the first to use a loud speaking device, which was a big success, and I can say that all future commencements have, in public events at MIT, have used it. And I thought I'd use that, Todd, to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about your special role here in making public announcements.
So for many years now, I think this is my 25th year, I've been serving as the public address announcer for the Killian Court ceremonies. And so we're going to tell you a little bit about how the sausage is made here. In approximately 15 minutes or so, we're going to start to welcome people into the courtyard. And the first is going to be the 50th reunion class. And so I will be stopping the commentary here with Debbie for just a brief moment. And this microphone goes out to the loud speaking devices on the courtyard. And I will make that announcement to welcome them. And then we'll come back and talk to you. And I think we'll do that 2 or 3 times over the course of our session here.
So MIT was originally founded and established in Boston. They had classes there in the Back Bay at Copley Square for 50 years. They moved to Cambridge in 1916, and every now and then you'll see a shot of our Great Dome, and there's a Roman numeral up there, and it confuses people because it clearly says 1916, which marks the year that we moved to Cambridge rather than the founding year of the Institute. Now, commencements began in 1947 to be held in the Rockwell Athletic Cage, and then it moved to Killian Court in 1979. There were some torrential rains in 1992 that forced the ceremony back inside, which was disappointing because this courtyard can accommodate some 13,000 guests safely, and they are serviced by a veritable battalion of MIT staff and administrators who volunteer their time to serve as ushers and aides and administrators. The MIT police, the EMS squadrons, all contribute to make this as safe and happy an occasion as is possible.
We've had a couple of ceremonies where the weather has been really nasty. We had a very cold rain one year. We had excruciating heat and humidity another year. And you might say to yourself, well, why not just go inside? And as Debbie mentioned, we don't have the room to accommodate everybody. If we did have to go inside, as we are set up to do in severe weather, it would just be for the graduates, and all of the guests would have to watch from remote locations. And so the students have always been polled. If a choice had to be made and it wasn't severe, but it was just nasty, what would you prefer? And overwhelmingly, they say, let's go outside. Let's grin and bear the weather and have our guests be able to watch this ceremony.
Now, during the COVID pandemic, we had 2 years of virtual ceremonies in 2020 and 2021. And again, the following year in 2022, we had a ceremony that invited not only the class of 22, but those students in classes of 2020 and 2021 to come back. So it was a massive ceremony. And the planners thought, only a small number of those classes would return, and they were just absolutely flabbergasted to discover that, in fact, a tremendous percentage, something like 70% of the students were able to return for that in-person ceremony. It gives you a sense of the tremendous loyalty that is felt towards this institution, a place that students both love and sometimes really have some hard feelings towards.
So it's worth talking a little bit about our commencement speaker today, because that is the key highlight of this one MIT ceremony. It's interesting that the first commencement speaker at MIT did not occur until 1982. That was Katharine Graham, the chair of the board of directors and chief executive officer of the Washington Post. For all the ceremonies prior, it was the president of MIT who gave the address. During my commencement in 1977, President Jerome Wiesner gave it, and we were, by the way, indoors on a very hot and humid day. But each year since 1982, we have had a featured commencement speaker, and this year it is Lisa Su, class of 1990, with bachelor's, master's 91, PhD in 94, chair and chief executive officer of Advanced Micro Devices. She was born in Taiwan and grew up in Queens, New York City. And after earning her degrees in electrical engineering from MIT, worked at Texas Instruments, IBM, Freescale Semiconductor, and then joined AMD in 2012 as its senior vice president and general manager for global business units.
Now, as the chair and CEO of AMD, she has absolutely transformed the company, which is now a global leader in high performance and AI computing. They design CPUs and specialized GPUs that enable AI applications. So the AMD technology is the foundation of many of the world's most advanced supercomputers and high-performance computing systems. The kind of systems that many of our graduates, something like half of MIT graduates, specialize in computer science and electrical engineering, and many of them witnessed in their 4-year tenure here at MIT, or 4 or 5-year tenure as a graduate student, the absolute and complete transformation of their education by AI.
It's been a very strategic plan by MIT to infuse computing in everything that occurs here over the last decade or so, highlighted by the formation of the Schwarzman College of Computing. So for most of its history, MIT had 5 schools: engineering, science, humanities, architecture and planning, and the Sloan School of Management. And now the Schwarzman College of Computing overlays the entire institute, and you can have a degree which is jointly conferred by the Schwarzman College and many other majors, not only electrical engineering, computer science, but mathematics and biology, almost anything you can think of.
Economics, political science, even in our humanities programs, students are beginning to work in this way. So it's a very interesting and visionary idea of our life to develop an approach to computing technology and help our students gain insight, a sense of not just technical competency, but ethical competency in these fields. Lisa Su has been connected with MIT since she graduated. She actually was a speaker here in 2017 for the doctoral hooding ceremony. She has established a fellowship fund. In 2022, Building 12, which houses MIT Nano, was named in her honor, and it is the only building, I think, on campus that is named for a woman.
And it has an interesting display. If you have the opportunity to come to campus, on the first floor, there is a huge, what you would think is a replica of the MIT seal and dome. However, etched into it in nanoscale is the name of every alum of the Institute. I don't recall when it was last updated. I think 2024, if I'm
Yes,
not
and
mistaken.
it's not just alums, it's every person who has been affiliated. So staff's names were included. So it is literally hundreds of thousands of names on a wafer that's about 8 inches in diameter.
You take your phone, there's a QR, and it tells you where you can find your name. I did it the other day. It's really there.
And if you can't make it to MIT Nano, we actually have a duplicate at the MIT Museum, and it's one of the popular little interactive exhibits for anyone who has some sort of affiliation or connection with the Institute to check out.
So I think it would be fun to talk about some of the symbols and traditions of MIT commencement. On the screen just a couple of moments ago, you saw the seal of MIT on the podium. It was created by the MIT Corporation back on December 26th of 1864, designed by a committee including then President William Barton Rogers and the treasurer of MIT. It has on it a laborer with anvil and a scholar with a book, and it's representing the educational philosophy of Rogers, mens et manus, mind and hand. Science and arts volumes on the pedestal, and the motto itself, mens et manus, represent the relationship between knowledge and science.
When the procession starts, you're going to see people, and we'll do our very best to keep up with the names and help identify some of the individuals as they come in, but you'll notice that they're carrying a lot of unusual medieval era, even paraphernalia. And the first is the mace that's often carried for these kinds of occasions. And they are, the mace was created by Leverett Cotton, the class of 1907, and was given to the Institute by the class of 1907 for as part of their 50th reunion. It contains the engraved names of all the presidents of MIT since William Barton Rogers. It's carried by the chief marshal of the OneMIT ceremony at the top of the mace. Maybe the folks will be able to give you a close-up of it. You'll see a little beaver, MIT's mascot, which was selected in 1914. There are a number of other details in there, but I will say as the faculty come in, they will be led by the chair of the faculty. And she carries a shepherd's staff, which is a symbol of her leadership of the faculty, I guess trying to corral all the individuals here.
Good luck with that, right?
Yes. This is the third year of this staff has been used. It was designed by Professor Brandon Clifford of the Department of Architecture and given by Professor Lily Tsai of Political Science. The original staff is now part of the MIT Museum collection, and it was given by the chair of the faculty, Hartley Rogers, in 1973.
The brass rat, which we spoke of a moment or so ago, the MIT school ring. 1930 was the first class to have a class ring, although it was planned the prior year. Until graduation, and this is a great tradition, the Boston skyline faces the wearer. And then during the ceremony, and that will be today's ceremony, the undergraduates will be instructed to turn the rat around. The swimming beaver is working on two more famous pirate certificate requirements. There are just so many different things that are etched into the brass rat, and every one is different. There's a defines the brass rat, and the intricacy grows year after year.
Those that swimming beaver mentioned the pirate certificate. Students here actually have a swimming requirement to graduate, so I can tell you all 1,100 or so of those undergraduates have managed to must get themselves back and forth across the pool 4 times. But along the way, as part of their athletic requirements, students informally created what they called the pirate certificate. And that means that they have taken courses in swimming, in pistol, in archery, and sailing.
And just a little note here, watching the radar right now, we're about to start to get a couple sprinkles here on campus, so you may see some umbrellas pop up in the courtyard. From what I'm seeing on the radar, it's not going to last long and it's not going to be very heavy, and there's nothing much behind it which is going to be hampering things. It's just one of those things about good old New England weather.
Those rings are quite distinctive, and more than 90% of MIT students purchase one, and they will wear it proudly. It is one of the way, whether you're on an airplane or in another business meeting, that MIT alums are able to find each other in a crowd. It's also a popular and sophisticated way for, say, a television show to communicate that maybe that detective is particularly smart, and they will have them wearing a brass rat. The eager beaver eyes of MIT alums are quick to spot that and understand the significance of the ring.
And it's really true. When I was working here at MIT running corporate relations, I would travel all over the world, and I remember being identified sitting in a coffee shop in a corner of a small town in the Philippines by a fellow alum. And it can happen anywhere in the world.
So, as we noted here, the students for this ceremony don't have assigned seating, and so they are invited to make their way in. You're noticing a lot of groups gathering to take photos with friends and loved ones. That will be a great activity of the hour. But we are now approaching the start of the processional, and I'm going to turn it over to Todd to make his first public announcement.
In just a moment, we'll be doing that. You can see that the camera is now looking back towards the city of Boston. That is the direction from which the processional will come, and we're ready to do it now. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to MIT. We ask that you please take your seats. The academic procession will arrive shortly. As a reminder, please close your umbrellas so that you do not block the view of people behind you. Thank you. So there was the first announcement, and we'll be doing another one in just a couple minutes. Pretty soon we're going to be seeing the academic procession lining up on the sidewalk of Memorial Drive. Charles River divides Cambridge from the city of Boston, and on our side of the Charles River is Memorial Drive. It's a beautiful tree-lined highway that has 2 lanes in each direction, and on the riverside has a wonderful bicycle path that people love to ride on and jog along. And on the MIT side is the sidewalk, and our guests are starting to line up there right now, and they will be coming in just a couple of moments.
On the Charles River is the Wood Sailing Pavilion, and on almost any afternoon from late March through late October, you will see the MIT Tech Dinghy out on the water. This is a student-created idea in the early 1930s to start a sailing association. It has been transformative of collegiate sailing. In fact, you could say that MIT invented collegiate sailing. And you will see these wonderful boats. We're now in its 7th generation. It started out designed by MIT professor George Owen. Within a year, the students managed to raise the funds to run classes, to purchase 30 boats, and to build that pavilion, all in the midst of the Great Depression. It was really an amazing achievement, and today there are more than 80,000 active alums and students with active sailing cards in the special card catalogs of that sailing pavilion.
And that's just one of the kinds of sports that students can participate in here. MIT is world renowned for having more intramural sports and other activities than just about any other university or college in the United States. I don't know if it's still around, but when I was a student, there was a Tiddlywinks Club.
Well, I don't know if the club still exists, but we have some of those Tiddlywinks in the MIT Museum collection when the students won a championship that particular year.
I had a freshman advisee one year, a long time ago, who took a little time off during her freshman first semester, didn't tell me why. We arranged for her to do that. She came back and she had won. She was the #1 ranked women's chess player in the United States of America. And those are the kinds of people that we have here at MIT.
In fact, that's one of the things that I've been impressed during my tenure with the Institute, now almost 27 years, is the incredible range and depth of our students and staff and faculty here. They're not just intellectually accomplished, but often wonderfully accomplished in many other areas of endeavor, from music and art and athletics.
So we're just a few seconds away from welcoming the 50th class. It'll be a little bit coming in because we have a little bit of rain coming right now. But again, I'm glancing at the radar. This is going to last about 5 or so minutes, and then it's going to pass, and we might even get a few spokes of sunshine once again.
As you can see, the commencement crew has equipped every single seat in the courtyard here with temporary plastic ponchos, so hopefully it won't. This will pass quickly and the students won't be too uncomfortable.
Later on in the ceremony, we're going to have the faculty marching in, and they're wearing beautiful academic regalia.
And those robes are all different colors representing institutions and the degrees that these members of the faculty have earned. You're seeing the undergraduates in their black robes and with square sleeves. It's usually worn closed, and then you'll see the master's degree students, and they have a kind of long crescent, a moon-like shaped piece of fabric that hangs off of their sleeves. The doctoral degrees have 3 bars of velvet on that sleeve and a soft cap, and the colors of the velvet trim on the robe indicate the type of degree. So if you see a dark blue, that means that's a PhD degree. If you were to see orange, that's an engineering degree, and so forth. But then institutions, just like MIT, which has its own distinctive robe, you will see many other institutions. The Harvard robe is a crimson robe, for example, with black bars. My own alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania, for its PhD has a red and blue robe. Princeton has a distinctive orange and black robe. Brown, no surprise, is brown. Dartmouth is green, and so forth. So for people in the know, it's really a fun game to try and guess the degrees of the faculty members of your institution. MIT's administrators, however, wear their own special robe, and you'll see that with Sally Kornbluth, MIT's 17th president. When she comes in, it features infinity symbols, and the bars on the sleeve indicate the number of predecessors that she has.
MIT has transformed its campus over the recent few decades. For decades and decades, 77 Massachusetts Avenue was the front door, and it still is, of course. However, a major gateway into the MIT campus now is Kendall Square, which has really been revitalized. In fact, much of that construction took place and was completed during the pandemic. So people who had been away from campus for a couple of years came back and were utterly surprised by the change that took place. And one that's very notable for me is Debbie's beloved MIT Museum, which for much of its history was pretty far from campus. You had to take a hike to get there, and now it's right there in the central of Kendall Square, and it is a gorgeous facility. Deb, tell us a little bit about it.
We could not be happier to be in a custom designed place. Our former home was a former electronics factory, and now we are in a facility that is designed and purpose-built. We feature numerous exhibitions and programs welcoming about 150,000 visitors every year. And one of the neat things is that if you're a member of the MIT community, and that includes alum, you have free admission for life.
Mm-hmm. There's an exhibit which I'm very proud of. When I was an undergraduate, I worked at the MIT student radio station, then called WTBS, and after a little transaction with Ted Turner, we became WMBR. The station is still in the basement of Walker, the Walker Memorial Basement Radio, and the original radio control board is an exhibit in the museum. It comes out from time to time for people to see and look at. It was the very first transistorized radio control board, hand-built by MIT students.
In fact, that's just one of the 1.5 million or so estimated artifacts and objects that we have in our collection that document every aspect of the Institute's history, as well as subjects that are of special interest or have been used for teaching. For example, we have one of the world's preeminent maritime design collections, and that was actually created by the former Department of Naval Architecture for use in instruction. And today we are able to share that with researchers and boat builders and sailors around the world. So that's just one example, but we really do invite you to come. It's MIT's window. It's kind of a window onto the Institute, a public lab, if you will, for MIT. But Kendall Square is not the only big change that the students here in the class of 2026 witnessed. During their time here on campus, they saw the completion of the Lindy Music Building, which is a remarkable new arts facility, several dormitories, an expansion of the Green Building for the Earth and Planetary Sciences, the Schwartzman College, and the renovation of East Campus, one of MIT's oldest dormitory. And the students are, it's just not quite done, but it will be dedicated this September. The Met Warehouse will be completely renovated and become the new home for the School of Architecture and Planning and the Morningside Design Academy.
One of the highlights of the ceremony that we will see in just a little while is the charge to the graduates from President Sally Kornbluth. She is the 18th president of MIT, began her term in January of 2023. By training a cell biologist, she earned her BA in political science from Williams in 1983, but then discovered biology and earned another BA in biology from Cambridge University in 1984, and then the doctorate from Rockefeller University in 1989. Previously, she served as the provost of Duke University, oversaw the institution's teaching and research missions there, developed its intellectual priorities, and improved the faculty and student experience. And we are really blessed to have her as the leader of our university.
Yes, in fact, just yesterday she penned a remarkable opinion piece that was featured in the Boston Globe, speaking to the importance of science and engineering education and in the United States and the value of the American Research University. It is a passionate defense, not so much of this institution, although she certainly speaks for it and for its values, but for all of the real triumph of the American Research University and what it has represented for national security, for economic well-being, and we could not feel more patriotic in this bicentennial year, in a sense, to say one of the things that has made this nation great has been its continued focus and emphasis on science, engineering, technology, and the associated disciplines.
So even though President Kornbluth is effectively the chief executive officer of MIT, it is governed by a body called the corporation, essentially the board of trustees, and the chair this year is Mark Gorenberg from the class of 1976, celebrating his 50th reunion. He joined the corporation in 2001 and appointed the chair 3 years ago in 2023. He himself is a venture capitalist, managing director of Zeta Venture Partners, and a member of the original Spark Station 1 team, and you will be hearing from him during the course of the ceremony today. As the Board of Trustees, it includes leaders in science, engineering, industry, education, and public service, and they have diverse backgrounds across all geographical regions, professions, gender, and race, of course, and it's the highest commitment that one can have to MIT. Currently, there are 75 active members of the MIT Corporation. Nearly all of them are MIT alumni. As mentioned, the chair is Mark Gorenberg, the president, Sally Kornbluth, the secretary of the corporation is Rachel Donahue, and the executive vice president and treasurer is Glenn Shore.
So in addition to the corporation, and you might think of the conventional roles of thinking about the overall well-being of the institute, its budget, its campus, and so forth. It oversees what I think is one of MIT, the secret sauce of MIT, and that's called the Visiting Committee. And the Visiting Committee are specialized groups of scholars, academics, industrial, business leaders in any given discipline, and they are assigned to each department, and every 2 years this group convenes and comes to make an on-campus visit, meeting with the faculty, the students, the administrators of the department, and their role is not to be stern taskmasters, but rather to say, how can we make this program the very best in the world? And they become some of the most ardent advocates for how to keep MIT strong.
I've participated in some of those sessions as a staff member here, and think of it as strategic planning on steroids. And the visiting committee, even though it has some amazing people with amazing ideas, they're there to listen. They're there to take in information, understand what's going on now, understanding the challenges, the opportunities, the threats, and help guide the departments into what, as you said, Debbie, would make them the absolute best in the future.
So you can see our ceremony start has been delayed ever so slightly while we're fingers crossed this brief interlude of rain passes by. You got to see them try to empty the great sail of some of the water that had accumulated on it, but I'm very hopeful, I think you are, that we have reached a point here in the weather patterns, a small break, and that will permit us to bring this ceremony, get it underway.
Looking at the radar right now, we're right smack in the middle of the current shower, and in a couple of moments it's going to be moving off to the south and east. Behind it, there's a reasonable break, so I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to be moving forth pretty shortly. We do have a couple of other interesting things to tell you about MIT. MIT has always been one of the leading universities in the number of Nobel laureates. Currently, 106 MIT people have been awarded the Nobel Prize. Turing Awards, that number is 18 now. MacArthur Fellowships, 85. National Medal of Science, 64 recipients. The National Medal of Technology and Innovation, 35, and Pulitzer Prizes, 7.
So one of the fun things in preparing for this program each year is I go back and look at some of the timelines of big events, both serious and not so serious, that occurred both in the last 4 years, but also during the 4-year period when our 50th reunion class was here as students. So there's a few fun facts to share with you about that, and here's a couple of them. For the class of 1976, when they arrived, their tuition for their first full year, that would have been 72, 73, was $2,900. And we're getting the signal that things are going to start. So I'm going to pause my trip down memory lane and we'll shift gears.
And here we go. Please welcome the MIT class of 1976, celebrating their 50th reunion. And the cheers go up. These are the stars of the show.
So for the young graduates, it's really like a portrait of Dorian Gray, and they are seeing themselves 50 years hence. They can hardly imagine it. I teach a class in the history of MIT each year, and I have them write a letter to students 5 years hence. And they've been reading the letters now written back 10, 12 years ago. And it's really remarkable to see how much has changed and yet how much has remained the same for those students. And I imagine they're wondering that now as they see this group clad in their red jackets.
Those red jackets are symbolic of the 50th reunion class. About 6 months prior to the reunion, the MIT Alumni Association will send an email, a note out to all of the alumni, inviting them to acquire their red jackets. And I'm looking forward to getting my letter in about 6 months, Debbie.
I can't wait to see it, Todd. Maybe we'll get to show it off.
I think we'll put it on next year on this show.
There's also, in the classes, always have some sort of distinctive souvenir associated with their class. Sometimes it's caps or hats. Here I'm seeing a lot of gray caps, which seem to be especially useful today to protect the heads of the wearers.
And they have those same ponchos that were handed out to the audience members there. They're probably going to be taking them off in just a couple moments now that the rain is passing. Temperature is fine out there. They'll certainly be comfortable in just the jackets, and I expect we could even see a little bit of sunshine coming in the next couple of moments. There you can see the gray clouds leaving as you look across the Charles River, across the city of Boston, out to the south and east. In a couple moments, the academic procession is going to be arriving on the court, and that will be the leadership of MIT, the officers, and the faculty who will be participating in the ceremony today. We will be describing to you some of those people as they come in, and we'd very much like you to take note of their colorful academic robes, which we described just a couple moments ago, identifying not only the universities from which they came, but also the terminal degrees which they earned.
So, a couple of other interesting facts. The class of 1976 had 1,040 students enroll in September, but there were only 3,600 or so applications that year. So, about 50% of the class was accepted. By contrast, this class of 2026, there were 1,300 or so students accepted out of 33,767 applications. And that really speaks to the transformation of the Institute in the last half century.
I'm often asked, what does it take to get into MIT? And one of the interesting things is that of all of those people that apply, almost all of them are eminently qualified. They all have amazing grades, terrific SAT scores, great recommendations. They've been the president of the student government, what have you. The question is, what will set them apart when the readers of the applications from the admissions office is trying to decide whom to accept into the next class? And while I don't have any wonderful insight that nobody else does, it's really what will set you as an applicant apart from other people. How will you be a cooperating and leading member of the MIT community, offering something perhaps other people cannot offer? And one of the examples that I like to give to high school students who ask that question, if you have a chess club in your high school and you're president of the chess club, that's not good enough. But if your high school didn't have a chess club and you really wanted one and you figured out how to set one up, to get it populated and to bring it to championship, that's the kind of thing that can set you apart.
In fact, MIT has become known for its entrepreneurship. They did studies in recent years at the Sloan School, and of the tens of thousands of companies that have been formed by MIT alums and faculty over the years, they added up the revenues and said it would be the 11th largest economy in the world. That gives a sense of the impact, not just on being individually brilliant, but have the capacity to build new companies, to provide leadership in your communities, in your government. And we're very proud of the accomplishments of all of the MIT alums.
The MIT is world famous for its startup companies. And while MIT does not itself create the startups, obviously the faculty and the students and the staff do, there are amazing resources all across the campus to help ignite those startups, from the Deshpande Center and the Technology Licensing Office. And the office where I used to work, MIT Corporate Relations, has the MIT Startup Exchange, where it brings in MIT-connected startups to meet with and collaborate with large companies to see what kind of relationships that can be generated to help build those startup companies. And many of those that have taken part in those collaborations have gone on to become large companies themselves. So it's really an amazing process that goes on here at MIT.
We're looking here, and one of the things you may notice is that the increase in the number of women and minority students at MIT really began in the 1960s and early 1970s. And in the early 70s, for example, MIT built McCormick Hall, a dorm specifically for women, and that, with the arrival of that dorm, the number of women tripled that year, such that today there is a balance between male and female students, roughly 50-50 among our undergraduate student population. It's perhaps the only science and technology oriented institution in the world that claims such balance.
Another change that has taken place over the years is MIT creating the opportunity for people to come here who cannot afford to come here. There are a number of ways to gain financial assistance. So, for example, the class that you see in front of you with the Redcoats, originally 2,000 plus students, 45 enrolled undergraduates received need-based financial aid. The current class of 2025-26, about 57% of undergraduate students received need-based scholarships. 39% attended free without any cost whatsoever because of the strategy that MIT has employed, and 88% of them will graduate without a student loan debt. Think of that. 88% of this class today will graduate without a student loan debt.
I think it's really one of the remarkable achievements as higher education gets increasingly expensive. Even if we account for inflation in this 50-year period, we have about doubled our costs. So we're now at the next phase.
Now, if you are able, please rise and welcome the academic procession.
So the camera is panning across the crowd. Here you can see in the back of Killian Court are all the members of the family. You're seeing individuals preparing themselves to see the first heads poke through, and here they come.
You see on the left there's Dean Paula Hammond of the School of Engineering.
And Dean Nurgis Marvarala of the School of Science. And what you're now seeing are members of the corporation wearing these black robes with gray stoles. On the left is Amy Smith, the former Chief Technology Officer under the President Obama. And as you're going through here, I will say that the corporation features both active members and emeriti members and life members, and so there's quite a mix here today.
The corporation meets a couple of times a year, and around commencement time is one of those very important times where they meet here on campus as a whole body to discuss and make decisions on the important activities and challenges facing MIT. And I think, as you can see from the smiles on their faces, they had a pretty good meeting today.
And we are now looking at the arrival of the faculty. Now, MIT has over 1,000 members of its faculty, and they don't all attend. Many of them are hard at work around the world. There are labs here on campus, but there are research projects everywhere. But now you are seeing both a range of graduating institutions from MIT to Harvard to Wellesley. And right in front there, you can see that ceremonial mace that we mentioned earlier. Sally Kornbluth with the blonde hair to the left and is the president of MIT.
And a great wave.
And to the right of the mace is Mark Gorenberg. Behind them, in the black robe, is Susan Hockfield, President Emerita. And behind her is Melissa Nobles, the Chancellor. The guest speaker in the black robe is Lisa Su. Behind her is Anantha Chandrakasan, who is the provost of MIT.
There's Eric Grimson, who is the Chancellor for Academic Advancement.
And then
Ian Waits, Vice President of Research.
And Maria Zuber next to him. Sorry, it's coming so quickly here. Now you can see that shepherd's crook that we mentioned earlier with the faculty coming in. And the mace is being installed here at the very front of the stage, here by the Chief Marshal. And then they will process onto the stage and in their assigned seats.
Watching the radar right now, and now that that shower has gone by, there's nothing behind it for probably at least 30 to 60 minutes, so that's a very good sign that we can continue with the ceremony today. As mentioned, we have a number of speakers, but there are going to be a number of musical performances as well. And that's something that you probably don't think of a lot when you think of a science and engineering school like MIT, is the breadth and depth of the humanities, the arts, and the social sciences. You can major in music at MIT. Of course, you still have to take calculus, physics, and chemistry, but every undergraduate is required to take a set of humanities, arts, and social sciences classes. And as I can attest, it really adds not only to your educational background, but it gives you, it's almost like a palate cleansing. After you've been doing differential equations or molecular biology, and all of a sudden you get to talk about philosophy or music or art or a foreign language. It's still intellectually stimulating, but it's something that is very important to your academic growth.
We think that MIT specializes in developing students that have both skills and smarts. And we are really excited to celebrate all of our graduates today and to say thank you to the faculty and staff and administrators who have made this a productive year. And we are delighted to welcome you, our virtual guests, to this ceremony. We hope that you enjoy the speeches and music and songs in the coming hour or so. We are so very pleased to have you as part of our MIT family and glad that you can celebrate with your graduate remotely.
And on behalf of Debbie Douglas of the MIT Museum, I'm Todd Glickman. We thank you for joining us in our webcast today, and we hope you enjoy the OneMIT ceremony.
Okay. The corporation and the faculty of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology are now declared convened, together with this assembly, on the occasion of the OneMIT Commencement Ceremony of this institution, and in recognition of the degrees being conferred on the class of 2026. The stage, assembly, and audience will please remain standing for the invocation by Reverend Thea Keith Lucas, chaplain to the Institute, and join the chorallaries of MIT in the singing of one verse of the Star-Spangled Banner.
I joined the countdown for the second Artemis mission this April. T minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, and then not 0, but liftoff. The ferocious roar of the engines generating 8 million pounds of thrust. As much as MIT has been your world, you do not need to travel at 18,000 miles an hour to leave its gravity. We have time between your last days and your new launch. We get to stand together at the 0. The pyramid builders of Egypt began their designs at the center, not having a number for 0. They marked the spot with the hieroglyph Nefer, a symbol for the heart and the lungs, and also for beauty. We hear it in the name of the loveliest of queens, Nefertiti. Your heart may not know what it is doing today in this strange mix of nostalgia for what was and impatience for what's next. And yet, it can rest easy here. For what truly matters is not yesterday's accomplishment or tomorrow's promise, but who you are at your core. We see each of you the way the beating heart in you meets the fleeting breath of this moment. We see you, and you are Nefer, beautiful.
Please be seated. First, let me say it's a special honor to welcome my own alumni classmates over there in the shade in their red jackets for the first time in celebrating their 50th reunion, the MIT class of 1976. And now it's a great privilege to introduce our commencement speaker, Dr. Lisa Su. So just beyond the Great Dome behind me is the building that houses MIT.Nano, the Institute's headquarters for nanoscale discovery and innovation. Many of us know it as Building 12. But when it opened in 2022, it was officially named the Lisa T. Su Building in honor of today's speaker. Dr. Su earned 3 degrees from MIT, all in electrical engineering. There must be some Course 6 graduates here. Dr. Su truly embodies the MIT spirit of mens et manus, or mind in hand. In the signature way, she combines theoretical knowledge and practical application. Even as a student here, she was known for inspiring and mentoring her classmates and for creating technical recipes or instructions that have guided generations of student researchers, even today, in how to use MIT's advanced nanofabrication tools. At MIT, Dr. Su worked as an engineer at Texas. After MIT, Dr. Su worked as an engineer at Texas Instruments and held leadership roles at IBM and Freescale Semiconductor. And in 2014, she became the first woman to lead Advanced Micro Devices, better known to you as AMD. Today, she serves AMD as both CEO and chair. Under her leadership, the company has made significant advances in the semiconductor industry, particularly in high-performance CPUs and specialized GPUs that power advanced computing and AI systems. Among her many awards, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers bestowed on her the Robert N. Noyce Medal, its highest semiconductor honor. She's been recognized as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people, and in 2024, she was named Time's CEO of the Year. Dr. Su remains actively engaged as a friend and supporter of MIT and its students, including through the Lisa Su Fellowship Fund, which she established to support graduate students in nanotechnology. When Lisa Su was at MIT, she changed it for the better, leaving priceless, practical instructions for those who followed. And she offers a remarkable example of how MIT can prepare its students for pioneering careers. So with that, please join me in offering a warm welcome to MIT's own Dr. Lisa Su.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. President Kornbluth, Chairman Gorenberg, trustees, faculty, family, friends, and most importantly, the MIT class of 2026, congratulations. You've earned this. And I can tell you that standing here feels very different than I expected. I've given a lot of talks over the years, but this one is quite personal. And as you can imagine, with Murphy's Law, I somehow managed to lose my voice this week. So please bear with me if I sound a little rough. But I couldn't be happier to be here with you And if I give you a little bit of my story, I came to MIT in the fall of 1986. My parents dropped me off at Next House. I was 17 years old, born in Taiwan, raised in Queens, and I was pretty sure I was good at math. Then, of course, I walked into 6001 and 6002. And within about 2 weeks, I realized that there were a lot of people at MIT who were very, very good at math. And I remember staring at those first problem sets thinking, my goodness, these are super hard. And I'd never really pulled an all-nighter until freshman year. It was a new experience, but it was a lot of fun doing it together with your classmates. Now, MIT has this incredible way of pushing you further than you thought you could go. You wrestled with the problem, you blew up a circuit or two. Yes, some of you may have. And then somehow the thing worked. And suddenly you realized that you could build something real. And that's when I started feeling like an engineer. One of the best parts of MIT is actually Europe. The opportunity as an undergraduate to work on real research. And that actually truly changed my life. My first Europe was in Professor Hank Smith's lab in Building 39, which Anantha tells me we are decommissioning and moving, making X-ray lithography mask blanks for a grad student. To be absolutely clear, at the time, I had no idea what that actually meant. But I got to put on my first bunny suit and walk into a clean room and start building devices on little 2-inch wafers, which at the time was pretty state-of-the-art. And I learned very quickly to be careful because those wafers were actually really delicate, and I definitely didn't want to be the one who broke them. But I ran a bunch of experiments. Most of them didn't work the way we expected, and so we adjusted and we tried again. And it was the coolest thing ever. For the first time, I wasn't just learning about technology in a classroom. I was part of a team trying to discover something new. And I remember thinking, wow, we can build things this small, things tiny enough to fit on a die the size of a coin, but powerful enough to change the world. And that's when I fell in love with semiconductors. Later, I had the privilege of working with Professor Dimitri Antoniadis, who became my PhD advisor. And that was where I really learned how to solve problems. I remember spending weeks in the clean room fabricating devices, and then bringing my wafers up to the test lab, only to discover they didn't behave the way I expected at all. And so I'd go back to Dimitri's office, and we'd figure out what we should do next. And looking back, that was probably where I grew the most at MIT. Because little by little, I went from a new grad student learning about the field to someone doing original research and actually contributing something new to the field. And along the way, I started believing in myself. Not the confidence that I would always know the answer, but the confidence that even when I didn't know the answer, I could figure it out. What I realize now is MIT was teaching me something much bigger than semiconductor device physics. Mens et manus, mind in hand. When I was a student, I thought it was just a motto. Now, I think it captures exactly what makes MIT so special. MIT teaches you to think deeply, but it also teaches you to build, to test ideas, to keep going when the first experiment or even the 5th experiment doesn't work. And over time, you start believing that you can solve problems that once felt impossible. I carried that feeling with me long after I left campus. When I joined IBM, I found myself starting all over again. IBM had hundreds of thousands of employees. I was 25 years old, wondering how I could possibly make a difference in a company that big. But I learned something important very quickly. Engineering actually doesn't care how old you are. It actually cares whether you have good ideas. And one of my mentors told me something that I've never forgotten. Run towards the hardest problems. At the time, I'm not sure I really knew what that meant, but I now realize this was the best advice I've ever received. Hard problems really teach you what you're capable of. So fast forward a bit. 12 years ago, I got a chance to put that lesson to the test. I had the opportunity to become CEO of AMD. AMD had a lot of potential, but the company had been through a few tough years. And some of my mentors thought taking that job was actually kind of risky. But for me, this was my dream job. This is what I'd been training for all those years. The opportunity to work at the bleeding edge of technology on problems that really mattered. And the first thing we had to do was figure out what we wanted to be when we grew up. This is a big company that had to figure this out. We made a long-term bet that high-performance computing would be the most important technology of the future. And we gave our talented team the room to think big. And over the next several years, we built technology to enable the most powerful computers in the world. And I can tell you, through all of it, I used every skill that MIT ever taught me, and then some. I was trying to put it in words, and I decided that calling it the engineer's instinct was kind of the right thing. It's the ability to face what seemed like an unsolvable problem, break it down, and methodically work through it step by step. But I also learned something else. The engineer's instinct is even more powerful when it becomes shared by a team. And the greatest satisfaction of my career has been bringing people together to do something more than any of us thought was possible. And that brings me to today and where you guys are. Over the last few decades, we've experienced several major technology shifts. The internet changed how we communicate. Mobile computing changed how we live. Cloud computing changed how we work. And now, we're at the beginning of the AI wave. And to me, AI is really different from all of those other waves. The way I think about it is, it's not just a tool that can help us do things faster, because we have lots of tools. It's actually deeper than that. It has the potential to accelerate discovery in every field and help us solve problems that we've never been able to solve before. And to make it personal, the area that excites me the most is actually what we can do in medicine and healthcare. I think we've all experienced firsthand what it feels like when someone you love is sick. And even with incredible doctors and the best care, you realize how hard it is for any one person or any one team to bring together all of the knowledge that has been gathered to help in that critical time of need. AI can help us change that. It can help doctors and researchers bring the world's best expertise to each patient and each loved one and deliver the care that we want for the best chance of a successful outcome. And this, I think, is the promise of AI at its best. Now, the way to think about it is, it makes each of us more capable. Whether you're talking about medicine, science, energy, climate, I think you can say we may discover more in the next 10 years than we have in the last 30. But let me be clear about something. Technology itself does not decide what the future looks like. The best people do. For everything that AI can do, AI can't decide which problems are worth solving. It can't make the hard judgments when the data is not there. It can't take responsibility for the outcomes. These are actually our responsibilities, and they matter now more than ever. This is why I feel this is such an extraordinary moment to graduate from MIT. Because the world does not just need people who know how to use powerful tools. It needs people who know what to use them for. People with a sense of purpose, judgment, courage. People who look at a hard problem and say, I know this is really, really important, and we can figure this out. And that is exactly who you have become here at MIT. So here's what I want to leave you with. I've been very fortunate in many ways. I have great parents. I received an extraordinary education. I've had the chance to work with great people. But I also believe I've been very lucky in my career. When people ask me for career advice, I often tell them, yes, you need to work really hard, but also understand that luck matters. And over time, I've come to believe that the best people find ways to make their luck. Luck is not just being in the right place at the right time. It is taking the risk to work on something really hard. It's challenging yourself. It's choosing problems where you may not know the answer. It's surrounding yourself with people who make you better. And yes, it's believing that you, the class of 2026, can change the world. So be incredibly ambitious about what problems you choose to solve. Run toward the hardest ones. And trust what MIT has taught you, that engineer's instinct. That's how you make your own luck. I want to take a moment to acknowledge all the families and loved ones who are here in the audience today. None of these graduates got here without you. Thank you for believing them, supporting them, and helping them reach this moment. This achievement belongs to you too. And to the class of 2026, remember, somewhere in the years ahead, you're going to walk into another room where you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. You've done this before. Go figure it out. And as one MITer to another, I am incredibly honored to be here with you today. Congratulations, class of 2026.
Thank you, Dr. Su, by the way, for passing on your purpose, judgment, courage, and wisdom to all of us today. Thank you. Dr. Teddy Warner, President of the Graduate Student Council, will now give a salute from the graduate student body. Following this, Ms. Heba Hussein, President of the undergraduate class of 2026, will offer a salute, after which President Sally Kornbluth will deliver her charge to the graduates.
Good afternoon, esteemed faculty, families, friends, everyone in the MIT community, and most important, all of the graduating students of the class of 2026. Whether you're here in person, watching the live stream, we gather here to celebrate the accomplishments you've all made at MIT. My name is Teddy Warner, and I'm honored to have represented the graduate students of MIT as the 71st and 72nd President of the Graduate Student Council. On behalf of the GSC and the entire student body, I congratulate all of the graduating students who have made it through MIT. Through, I'm sure, what was many long hours on P-sets, essays, and theses, you're joining the group of more than 150,000 alumni who are driving the future of science, technology, innovation, business, design, and social science and the arts. We all have and will continue to contribute to the advancement of the world in numerous different ways related to our fields of choice. In addition to this, though, we have also contributed to many more areas, including teaching, public policy, leadership, and service. The past few years, though, have seen numerous challenges, including threats to research funding, increasing automation of thought, and harm to the rights of international students in the US to seek education, opportunity, and live without fear of unlawful detainment. As MIT graduates, we have the responsibility to work with others to generate, disseminate, and preserve knowledge to bear on the world's greatest challenges. We cannot solve global problems without global cooperation or with limited techniques. And I implore everyone here to apply cooperative, interdisciplinary skills used every day at MIT to effect positive change in all areas of the global community. I congratulate the class of 2026, and I wish everyone great success in leading the world into the future. Thank you.
Hello, families, friends, distinguished guests, faculty, staff, and of course, the class of 2026. My name is Hiba Hussein, and I've had the privilege of serving as class president for the past 4 years. At MIT, we've learned to meet uncertainty with curiosity, resilience, and a belief that we can use it to build a better world. This past year, I was reminded of that lesson in unexpected ways during a trip to India through MIT's Global Teaching Labs program. I spent my days teaching students in rural communities how to build, experiment, and imagine futures for themselves. But outside the classroom, I spent time in India with my family members from Sudan, who had just recently been displaced by what is now the world's largest displacement crisis and one of the most devastating humanitarian emergencies of our time. It was a strange mix of emotions, the joy of watching my students discover the excitement of creating something new, alongside the heartbreak of seeing the people I love navigate lives that had been abruptly interrupted. In some ways, that tension felt familiar. Over the past 4 years, many of us have learned to hold competing realities at once: excitement about the possibilities ahead and concern about the challenges facing the world around us. We spent late nights designing solutions to problems that can seem impossibly large. We celebrated breakthroughs, friendships, and milestones while living through moments that reminded us how uncertain the future can be. And yet, this class never stopped finding ways to continue to show care for each other. I saw it in classmates staying up to help friends debug code at 2 a.m. I saw it in the community events people continued showing up for, even during our most overwhelming weeks here. And I even saw it in our class-wide events, like Freshman Formal, where we lit up the dance floor so much that the speakers literally caught on fire. Fast forward to this past Sunday at our senior ball, where we brought those same moves, just a bit more grown up this time. As we move forward, I urge you to continue to carry care. Care for our work, for each other, and for the people far beyond MIT whose lives are connected by what we choose to do. Congratulations, class of 2026, we did it.
Teddy and Heba, thank you both for your remarks and for your leadership. So technically, as MIT's president, it is now my job to deliver a charge to the graduates. But this year, I faced this assignment with a serious case of humility. You are entering a world that I am certain you'll navigate better than I could. So for your charge, I decided to draw on a special resource, the collective wisdom of our alumni. I talk with a lot of MIT graduates around the world, across the country, and on our own faculty. They each put it their own way, but nearly all of them talk about how MIT changed their lives. It wasn't a subject they studied or a particular skill they acquired. It was the whole MIT experience of living and working here together and belonging to a community with our distinctive passions and values. So as you go into the world, I want to emphasize a few of those values that will serve you wherever you go. The banners in Lobby 7 feature our MIT value statement. So let's focus on two words at the top: excellence and curiosity. Now, excellence is an easy thing to say. Most companies claim it, probably every university too. But I have never seen a community live its commitment to excellence the way it is done at MIT. It's easy to measure in the outward accomplishments of our faculty and our graduates, the prizes, the discoveries, the inventions, the architecture in the industries, the companies, and the cures. But you also feel it here every day when everyone you meet in the hallway wants to tell you about what they're working on. And it just blows you away. As members of this community, we strive to hold ourselves to the highest standards of intellectual and creative excellence. Just as important, we inspire each other to reach for those standards too. As one timely metaphor, this week 400 of you apparently felt that earning a degree from MIT wasn't hard enough, so you also had to jump out of a plane. As an institution, we support these standards of individual excellence with a systematic focus on merit. For instance, no legacy admissions. No backdoor admissions for donors. And that is because we value potential over pedigree. A long ago colleague had a sign in his office. It said, "If you take a lick of the lollipop of mediocrity, you will suck forever." Now let me be clear. I'm talking about self-discipline, not self-regard. In the work we do, a conscious commitment to excellence is not the same as arrogance. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. The American poet Walt Whitman captured this idea. As he wrote, "I like the scientific spirit, the holding off, the being sure, but not too sure, the willingness to surrender ideas when the evidence is against them. This keeps the way beyond open and gives the whole human a chance to try over again." So I hope wherever your life and work lead you, that you will strive to sustain our MIT standards of excellence. And I also hope, in the spirit of Whitman, that you'll accept the risk of failing as a rung on the ladder of growth. Because in all the fields you've studied, the willingness to try and fail and try again is the golden path to breakthroughs. Now for curiosity. A few months ago, I was interviewed by a journalist who understands the current challenges for higher education. He described me as inexplicably ebullient. Now, he doesn't see me every day, but anyway, if I'm ebullient in leading this community, it's entirely explicable. MIT is custom made for people whose curiosity never sleeps, which describes our faculty, our staff, our alumni, and every one of you. Feeling that curiosity is an incredible source of pleasure, You don't need me to encourage you in this lifelong feast. But I do hope I can count on you to help the world understand this curiosity, that this curiosity is also our intellectual rocket fuel, and the fact is enormously important for society as a whole. At MIT, we know that curiosity-driven science is the path to new knowledge, the kind that spawns world-changing innovations. Curiosity is the force that transforms deadly cancers into treatable conditions, that turns fusion energy from a dream to a reality, that uncovers new ways to grow more food using less of every resource. We like to say science is curiosity on a mission. But we also know that the curious path to those deep discoveries can look like a long, winding road. Years ago, after a long conversation about my PhD work, my own grandmother said, "Wait, you're not trying to cure cancer in humans? You're trying to give cancer to chickens?" So, luckily, over 8 decades, the United States had the foresight to see the value of discovery science. It invested public money with steady patience, knowing that the practical payoff could be 20, 30, 40 years away. And today, as many of you know from experience in your own labs, US investment in curiosity-driven science is in sharp decline. The tragedy here is that shrinking the pipeline of basic discovery research means choking off the flow of future solutions, innovations, and cures, and shrinking the supply of future scientists. So I hope you all will join in a great shared effort to sustain the work of scientific curiosity on a mission to serve. A final thought. Every one of you here possesses uncommon talent, and with great talent comes great responsibility. I have no doubt that, like our alumni, you will be top-flight performers in your fields. Innovators, engineers, scientists, doctors, designers, entrepreneurs, investors, and astronauts, pioneers in whatever realm you choose. I mentioned excellence and curiosity, 2 of MIT's core values, but I hope we also hold together another core value: the commitment to always act ethically, with integrity, and with consideration for our fellow human beings. After more than 6 decades on Earth, I know that living up to this standard requires constant reinforcement and awareness. You will face many temptations and opportunities to lose focus on that North Star, and you simply have to resist. I have no doubt that with your uncommon talent, you can do it. And if you keep that goal in sight, I know you will do great things for the world. Congratulations, and warmest best wishes to all of you for a happy life and a fulfilling career. Thank you.
Science is curiosity on a mission. President Kornbluh, thank you as always for your leadership and your inspiring words. It's now my pleasure to introduce Stephen DeFalco, the Chief Marshal, 2-time alumnus, and President of the MIT Alumni Association, who will greet the graduates and lead the turning of the class ring. Stephen, where are you?
The entire alumni body, more than 150,000 strong, joins me in congratulating the graduates of the class of 2026 and officially welcoming you into the alumni family, your infinite connection to MIT. One beloved tradition binds generations of MIT alumni, the turning of the brass rat at commencement. Class of 2026, please raise your brass rat bearing hands and remove your ring. Take a moment to appreciate what this symbol of your MIT experience means to you. Now place it back on your finger so the beaver is no longer facing you. Because as of today, the beaver faces the world, as do you. I know that you will meet the future with immeasurable promise and potential. Congratulations to the class of 2026.
Thank you, Mr. DeFalco, and to all our speakers, President Kornbluth, Dr. Sue, Reverend Keith Lucas, Dr. Warner, and Ms. Hussain. I'd also like to thank our marshals, including our 2026 Corporation Life Emeritus and the Marshal of the Faculty, John Oxendorf. And the Chair of the Commencement Committee, Professor Jim Perturba. Congratulations and best wishes to all the families, friends, and of course the graduates of the class of 2026. The OneMIT Commencement Ceremony of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology is now concluded. At this time, we invite those who are able to rise and join the chorallaries of MIT in singing the school song, followed by Take Me Back to Tech.
Street, dressed in my dinky uniform, so dapper and so neat. I'm crazy after calculus, I never had enough. 'Twas hard to be dragged away so young, 'twas horribly awfully tough. Hurrah for technology, hurrah, geology, ho! Hurrah, yes, all technology, hurrah, geology, ho! Back in the days of free, preparing the ology varsity shop, with nothing to do but analyze air in an atometrical top. The differentiation of the trigonometric powers, the constant pi that made me sigh, those lucky days of ours. Hurrah for technology, hurrah, geology, ho! Hurrah, yes, old technology, hurrah, geology, ho! Take me back on a special train to a glorious institute. I yearn for the inspiration of the technological toot. I shun the physical, rough and shallow land on that. But how the love was going and the scientific fact. La 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 INSTITUTEOFTE, CHNOLOG, YSLG. It's the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Hey!
friends, please exit the court at Memorial Drive.